Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play the theme to Ghostbusters on ukulele. So, as you guys heard in the performance, this is a really fun and a very rhythmic and high energy arrangement. And a lot of that is due to the fact that it is a strum based chord melody as opposed to finger picking based chord melody. So I think that's the biggest takeaway of this tune. If you've been looking for an arrangement to learn that is heavy on strumming and rhythmic playing, then this one is perfect, and it's coming just in time for Halloween, so that makes it double perfect. Now, in this lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play the entire tune, but if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, you can do so by clicking this link or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for Ghostbusters. Now, also on that page will be the on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, you can slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset for learning this song that much easier. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt to teach you how to play this, and then I'll see you at the end of the video.
Today we're going to work on a solo arrangement of Ghostbusters. This is a strumming based song that uses a high G ukulele, and it's a ton of fun to play. Let's go ahead and dive into part A, which is the intro, and there's sort of multiple parts to this intro. Honestly, I think the intro is one of the hardest parts of the song, so if you're able to play this, a lot of it should be pretty smooth sailing. To start here on measure 1, we're going to be doing some down strums. You'll notice that a down strum is marked on the tab by this little 3/4 square. That means to do a down strum with your index finger across the strings. But in this case, you'll notice that it's actually 0, 0, 3, and then nothing on the A string. What we actually need to do with this is mute the A string so that we only get a sound on our G, C, and E strings. To do this, I like to fret my index finger here on the 3rd fret and have it just lightly touch the A string. This takes a lot of practice, but creates that sort of sound. We're going to do 2 down strums in a row here. And then we're going to, for these X's, take our fretting hand and we're just going to lightly touch over all 4 strings to mute them and finish this measure off with a down, up, all muted. So a lot of muting in this, and this is why I said this is a bit harder. So it sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going on to measure 2 now. With measure 2, we're going to be doing the same sort of muted stuff, just with some different fingers. We're going to be moving our middle finger up here to the 5th fret of the C string and our ring finger here to the 6th fret of the E string. And then our A string likes to kind of sit there on the A, but just lightly touch it instead of compress down. And this is really hard. It's hard to compress with these fingers and then have this one only lightly touch down. But that gives us our B flat chord that we need here. We're going to strum down with that. And then we're going to mute all 4 strings. And so what I like to do is just take this pinky finger and kind of come up and mute by just touching all 4 strings with a down. And then it's going to go to this little F chord, and all that we do for that is we take our ring finger here and we slide it down to the 5th fret on the E string, still muting our A with our index and still compressing the C string with our middle. And then follow that with another mute, just crossing the pinky over. So measure 2 is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, if you get a little bit of extra sound, like I did there, you notice I didn't completely mute the G and all that? It's totally fine. This is going to happen so quick that it doesn't need to be perfect with the mutes. In fact, sometimes when you have a little bit extra ringing in there, it creates a little bit of cool depth to it. But so measures 1 and 2 should sound something like this in time. Nice slow time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then you'll notice it repeats, and we do this again. And we do it again. And we do it a 4th time, where we go back to measure 1. But then on the fourth time, instead of going on to measure 2 for the fourth time, we go on to the second, or rather the fourth ending here on measure 3, where you'll see it goes to the B flat chord, same one with the muted A. And then instead of doing a little mute between, we're going to go to just an F chord. And we're going to not mute between there as well. Now, when you're doing those mutes on measure 2, it's okay to chunk if that's more comfortable. So let's go ahead and hear what measures 1 and 2 repeated 3 times. Then the fourth repeat, measure 1 into 4. Let's hear what that all sounds like. Something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Measure 3 now. And you hear that builds a little bit of momentum with those 2 chords as we go now into measure 4, which is really the iconic riff of the song. It took some work to get this right with strumming, but I think it sounds really cool. And so we're going to start here with our index finger on the 3rd fret of the E string, play that same chord as the start of the song, but then we're going to compress our bar completely across the E and A string, so it's 0, 0, 3, 3. We're going to do a down, up, and then we're going to take our pinky at it on 7 of the A, do a down there, and then another down on just the 3s, taking the pinky off. So measure 4 is something like this, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going right into measure 5, we're going to take this bar, we're going to slide it down 2 frets to 1 on the E and the A, take our middle finger, add it on 2 of the C string, and then stretch our pinky up to 5 on the A. Bit of a stretch. Again, the intro is probably the hardest part of this song for this sort of reason. We're going to do a downstroke here, and then we're going to do another downstroke taking our pinky right off. That's why we left the bar there with the index fingers so that it's all ready to go. And if you struggle getting a good tone here, getting a lot of buzzes, a little trick is make sure that you're getting right up next to the fret wire, really hugging it. And your finger doesn't have to be truly straight this way. You notice I kind of curve mine inward a little bit to build some flexibility for those big stretches. So it's like yoga for your fingers. And after I played that second chord, I'm going to then mute the strings and do a down, up, down, up. Pretty straightforward. So measure 5 is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going right into measure 6, super simple chord. Just take your index finger, place it here on the 1st fret of the E string for an F add 9. We're going to do a downstroke. And this is a half note in time, so we're going to essentially do that downstroke and then we can like miss, because it's taking up 4 eighth notes worth of time, 2 beats. 1 and 2 and. And then for the rest of that measure, we're going to take the ring finger, add it on 3 of the A, leaving the index where it was. We're going to go down, up, down, up. Pretty straightforward. So measure 6 in time, something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, we're going to go right into measure 7 here, and measure 7 is going to have that same little B flat chord where we're taking the index finger and placing it on the 1st fret of the E and the A strings, barred on 1, and the middle finger should be here on 2 of the C. Do a down strum there. Then we just take this shape and we slide it up 2 frets and do another down strum there. And then to wrap up this measure, we just play the muted strum 4 times, just compressing the strings just hard enough to create that nice muted sound. So measure 7 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now the important thing here is it repeats, but it doesn't go all the way back to the beginning. It goes back to the repeat markers that sort of bounce the other way, which if you're looking at the tab, you'll notice is on measure 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to play 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we're going to repeat. Go back to 4, 5, 6, and then when we get to 6, we'll talk about what to do. So here's 4, 5, 6, 7, repeat. Something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Back to the beginning. instead of going on to measure 7, we're going to go to the second ending, which is measure 8. It's almost the same. It starts off with the same little B flat chord, the 0, 2, 1, 1. The middle finger here on 2 of the C, index barred across 1 on the EA. Do a down strum there. But then we're going to go back to what's called an F sus2. So our index finger stays here on the first fret of the E string, and we add our ring finger to the 3rd fret of the A string, and we're going to do a downstroke. And then we're going to do a down up. And that down up is actually when there's something strange in your neighborhood going into the lyrics. So that wraps up section A, but let's go ahead and hear measure 8 in time. Should be something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And now, just so that we can hear it, here's the entirety of section A, starting at measure 1, with all the repeats, all the bells and whistles. Should sound something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. When it's played at that speed, you only start to hear the song, right? And when you're practicing it really slow, it doesn't really sound like Ghostbusters, and that's normal because we're strumming this melody, and it takes good muscle memory to develop the right motions, but then we have to be able to play it fast to really internalize it. So we have to practice it slow to develop the right muscle memory, and the right muscle memory will allow us to play it fast. So trust that what you're playing is correct, following along, and you'll have it in no time. So let's go on to melody B, which is really the, starting with the verse of the song, when there's something strange in your neighborhood, who you going to call? Ghostbusters. So when we start here, we're going to play a C minor chord. To do this, we're going to take our index, we're going to bar it across 3 on the E and the A strings, which should be kind of familiar because we've been doing that a bit already. And then we're going to add the pinky on 6 of the A and play that with a down strum. Then we're going to take the pinky off for another down strum on the 3, and then we're going to place it back on for another down strum. And then we're going to do a chunk, followed by this weird little thing. You see how it's all open, 0, 0, 0, 0? If I play that loud, it sounds terrible. And the reason is because this is actually a technique that I like to use in arrangements that I do called the open switch. And what the open switch is an understated strum. So you want to play it nice and soft. Whenever you see all open, play it nice and quiet. That facilitates the change to whatever the next chord is. In this case, that all open is going to go on to measure 10, where it goes to a B flat 6 chord, 0, 5, 6, 5. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. But that all open leaves me the time to make the hand movement into that next chord. So when you're playing it really slow, it sounds really off and weird. You won't like those all open. But when you play it in time with the switch, it sounds really cool. So here's what measure 9 sounds like in time with that open switch. Something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. See, I'm doing it a little bit softer. Still sounds out of place, right? But when you hear me play into it, you hear how cool that sounds, right? That's when you're working up to full speed. So moving right on now to measure 10, we're going to play this B flat 6 chord. And all that it is a G chord moved up 3 frets. So index finger here on 5 of the C, ring finger here on 6 of the E, and the middle finger is going to go onto 5 of the A. We're going to do a downstroke, and then we're going to do a chunk, and then we're going to come up on an open switch, all open, taking your hand off and setting up the next chord, which is this F add 9, one of my favorite chords on the uke. Take your middle finger, place it on the 5th fret of the C string, ring finger on the 5th fret of the E string, and the index finger here on the 3rd fret of the A string. And we're going to do a downstroke there. And so that open switch, we essentially have that all open, dipping the sound a little bit to set up that chord. And then the end of this measure, we're going to play a downstroke, and we're going to slide the 3 on the A string down to 1 on the A. And that's because that's what the melody is doing. In your, and then neighborhood, right? So here's what measure 10 sounds like in time. Something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, as we go on to measure 11 here, we're going to go to a C chord. Just take your index finger, place it on the 3rd fret of the A string, give it 3 downstrokes, and then we're going to do a chunk, followed by an up on all open. Now remember, when we do these all open strums, it's an open switch, so we want to do it nice and quietly so that we get the right tone that we're looking for, right? If we do it really loud and pronounced, it's not going to sound so good. So measure 11 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now as we go on to measure 12 here, we're going to go back to our B flat chord down here that we played before. Index finger barred across, 1 on the E and the A. Middle finger goes here to 2 on the C. We're going to do a downstroke. Then we're going to go chunk up on an open switch, followed by the F add 9 that we played earlier, just our index finger here on 1st fret of the E string. Downstroke there. Then we're going to do a chunk, and then up open switch. A lot of open switches, but that's what creates this really cool sound as you're going through the song. So measure 12 is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... But now let's go ahead and hear section B thus far. So we're going to do measures 9, 10, 11, and 12. And you can really start to hear how the open switch interacts when you have a longer stretch of measures like these 4. So when you're practicing it, I highly recommend working on, sort of the ends of measures to the beginning. Don't worry about necessarily doing measures 9, 10, 11, 12. You can play maybe measures, 9, 10, and the beginning of 11 so that you can hear the open switch. And you can really do this at any point in the song. Just, it's important to hear that open switch move to where it's supposed to be. But here's measures 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I'm actually going to end with the first beat of measure 13, just so that you can hear the open switch resolution on measure 12. It should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now this is measure 13. Goes back to our C minor chord that we played on measure 9, 0, 0, 3, 6, with the bar there across the E and the A with the index. And the reason for the bar is after we do this downstroke, we're going to go up, down, all on the 3 on the E and the A together. And then we're going to do a chunk, followed by an open switch to end that measure. So 13 in time is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And that's Who You Gonna Call. Who You Gonna Call. And then on to measure 14, it goes to this B flat chord. Same one that we played before. 0, 5, 6, 5, middle finger on 5 of the C, ring finger on 6 of the E, middle finger here on 5 of the A, down, and then we're gonna do a chunk, open on the switch. And then this is for Ghostbusters. Kind of the most important part of the song, wouldn't you say? To play this, we're gonna take our middle finger, slide it all the way up to 9 on the C string. Take your index, play it on 8 of the E string, and then take your ring finger and play it on 10 of the A. So this is an F add 9, way up high. We're gonna do a downstroke on that, and we're gonna give it some pause. So we wanna really deliver that because that's Ghost, and then Busters comes in the next measure. So measure 14 sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And then as we go right into 15, Busters, all that we do is we take this middle finger off so that we have 0, 0, 8, 10. So the 8 is played with the index finger here on the E string, and the 10 is played with the ring finger here on the A string, right? So index on 8, ring on 10. There we go. So we're going to do 2 downstrokes on that, and that's buster. So Ghostbusters. And then we're going to do a chunk up, down, and then up, open switch. Shocker there, right? These open switches are all over the place. So measure 15 sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... So now that we can hear it, here is measures 13, 14, and 15, sort of leaving off where we were, and that's going to be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now from here, as we go on to measure 16, this is the first ending of this. So we're going to go back to this B flat chord. And this measure is actually very familiar because we've pretty much played it already. We're going to play the 0, 5, 6, 5 down, chunk up, open switch. Then we're going to go to this F add 9. I mentioned one of my favorite chords. Middle finger here on 5 of the C, ring on 5 of the E, index on 3 of the A, down stroke there. And then we're going to do a down up on it. Now that down up is starting back into the beginning of the song, or rather the beginning of section B. So that's going to rewind us all the way to measure 9. So let's go ahead and hear what measure 16 sounds like though. It should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And that's the next run through of the verse. So here it goes back into measure 9 so that we can kind of hear it going into 9. Now, when we get to this point here, instead of going back to measure 16, which is the first ending, we're going to go on to measure 17, which is the second ending, and we're going to play a downstroke on 0, 5, 6, 5, same B flat chord, chunk up, down on that F add 9, same chord, and then we're going to do a chunk up to finish this measure. And when we do that up, it's on that open switch. So measure 17 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And that wraps up section B, going all the way through. So let's go ahead and hear all of section B with that repeat, even though we just kind of walked through it, just so that you can hear it. I'm going to play it just a little bit faster so that you can start to hear the melody. Again, you have to develop the muscle memory to be able to play it fast correctly, and to be able to hear it, you have to play it fast correctly. It's a catch-22 here, right? But it's a lot of fun to play when you start to get comfortable with it. So here's B. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now from this point, it goes on to section C, which is the riff, you know, not the intro riff, but the da 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 da, that cool part, right? The part that honestly had me wanting to do this arrangement. So this is a tricky part from a rhythm standpoint. You'll notice when this is spelled out, this is going to be very complicated on screen. But it's just a pattern that's repeating that takes 4 bars to sort of reset. So when you're working on this, we're going to talk about a couple tricks because it's basically the same riff repeated, just the riff takes 3 beats and that riff is done 4 times, and that's what makes it weird, but super fun. So we're going to start here with our C minor chord, 0036. We're going to do a down. Now this is a dotted quarter note. So what I really, really want you to do when you're practicing this is to practice doing a downstroke and then missing bringing your hand up, not striking the strings, and missing going back down, not striking the strings. And then the next strum being an up on the 0033, taking the pinky off. Now the reason this is so important is it makes it so you don't have to guess what's happening. If you go like this, see how I'm sort of guessing when it will happen? And I don't trust my natural sense of rhythm at all. That's why you'll notice that I go, I keep that hand moving. So with those dotted quarter notes, it's going to be 1 and 2, where you see I'm missing the strings on both the up and down. So anyways, how we play this, we go through, down, miss, miss, and then up, and then chunk, and then a miss coming up. And essentially we repeat it, but now it's going to be crossing between different measures. So to finish measure 18, we're going to do another downstroke on the 0036 chord. So measure 18 sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, measure 19 is going to continue what we did before, right? So we did that down, miss, miss, up, chunk, miss. That's kind of our little 3-beat pattern. So the end of measure 18 is going to be a down, which means we're going to start the next measure, or we're going to do the down at the end of 18, then a miss for 4 and of 18. And then on 19, we're going to miss coming down, and we're going to come up on 0033. So it's the same little pattern. Do a chunk, miss, and then we're going to add the 6 back on, do another down strum, miss, miss, and then an up strum back on 3 to finish that measure. So you can see that it's just offset. It's the same little pattern. We're always going down, miss, miss, up, chunk. Then we're going to do it again. Down, miss, miss, up, chunk. But it's going to be taking place over multiple measures. And that's why it seems so complicated, but it's not as hard as it seems. So here's what measure 19 sounds like in isolation, which you'll notice is much more complicated than it needs to be. Something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and miss. Chunk. Up, miss. Right? That's weird. But if we listen to measure 18 and 19 together, it's something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Oh, sorry. Let me play it right. What I just did there is a mistake, really important, is I did the chunk and then I tried to immediately come up with the same chord, and that's not good. It's something I, for some reason, want to innately do. I think it's because other songs I play do that, but you want to avoid that mistake. So let's go and try measure 18 again without me making that mistake. Something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now we go on to measure 20. 20 is going to be chunk, miss, down on the 6, miss, miss, up on the 3, chunk, which you'll notice is the continuation of what we were just playing. So measure 20 in time, something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and chunk, down, miss, miss, up, chunk. Now, just to break this down, these 3 bars play the riff 4 times. And this is how it works, right? So just to take a step back and think about this. The riff that we're playing this, going is 3 beats long. 1 and 2 and 3 and. And it's going to repeat 4 times. And by repeating 4 times, we're essentially getting 4 times 3, which is 12, right? Which is the same as 3 measures, because each measure has 4 beats. So we're putting 3 into 4, and it happens to take 12 to do that because of lowest common denominators. You wouldn't think we'd get to, fractions and stuff here, but here we are. So you basically just play down, miss, miss, up, chunk 4 times. And that's it. That's the whole riff. So it sounds something like this. So this is measures 18, 19, and 20 played together. 2 and 3 and 4 and. it's just that 4 times, just over these different measures. Music can be complicated and simple at the same time. It's amazing. But then we go on to measure 21, and what we're going to do here is my favorite part of this riff, and that's going to be a downstroke on the 0036, and then downstroke on the 0033. And then we're going to take this bar here, and we're going to move it down 2 frets to 1 on the E and the A. And then we're going to come up with 2, moving the bar up, real brittle chord there, right? And then down on 0033. So that sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now from here it goes on to measure 22, and here's what's cool. So measure 22 I think is the hardest in the whole song. It's really difficult, measure 22 through 25. But it's exactly the same rhythm as 18 through 21. Exactly the same. So we're still going to be doing those little sets of 3, but we're going to be playing them over a little bit different of chords. We're going to be playing this F9, not F add 9, F9. And to play this, we're going to take our middle finger, place it on 5 of the C, ring finger on 5 of the E, and the pinky here on 6 of the A. Now you might want to bar it or do other things, but trust me, we want to play it this way. Because we're going to do a downstroke, followed by the miss, miss, and then when we come up, this is what makes it tricky. We take the pinky off, and we add our index finger here on 3 of the A. And that's our F add 9 chord that we were playing before in the song. 0, 5, 5, 3, middle finger and ring stay on the C and the E, index comes on the 3 of the A. But what's cool is rhythmically it's the same as measure 18, 19, 20. So it goes... which is the same pattern, right? Down, miss, miss, up, chunk, miss. 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 Same thing, just that 3-beat pattern played 4 times. And when we look at that, measures 22, 23, and 24 played all together, it sounds something like this when we count it out. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Again, I don't really like playing it measure by measure. I like playing it as 4 different sets of 3 beats. Personally, it makes it a lot easier to internalize. But then we go on to measure 25, which is actually exactly the same as 21 for a rhythm. It's just going to be playing off of these chords now. Play the 0, 5, 5, 6, the F9, followed by the F add 9, which is just take that pinky off, have the 3 on the A with the index. And then we do our little, we did this the first time, now we're going to do something like that, which is probably the coolest part of the song. So we take this chord shape and we move it down 2 frets, 0, 3, 3, 1, so that we have it's called an E flat chord. And then we're going to move it up to 0, 4, 4, 2, and then move it up again to 0, 5, 5, 3. And that's going to be a down, up, down on that. So it goes down, up, down. So here is what measure 25 sounds like, something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And here's 22 through 25 so that you can hear this whole second section. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now here's all of section C, and you'll notice section C has a repeat marker. A lot of those in this song. So we're going to go from 18 all the way through 25, and then we're going to repeat and do those all again. It should sound something like this together. 2 and 3 and 4 and... to the F9 section. Then we repeat. just so that you can hear it. Here it is really fast, right? Right? It just sounds cool. So keep that in mind when you're playing it and practicing it. So from here, though, we go on to the outro, and I really like this. It's just a nice little bow to wrap up the song. Really straightforward, no strumming here. All that we're going to do is play a C chord, 0003, with our index on 3 of the A, strum through all 4 strings, play the 3 on the A twice, add the pinky on 7 of the A, strum through all 4 strings, and then 3 on the A again. So that's 26 in time, 2 and 3 and 4 and... And then we're going to go to measure 27, the B flat chord, 0565, same chord we've been playing, strum through all 4, and then the 6 on the E, and then we're going to switch that over to our F add 9 that I love so much, the 0553. We're only going to play 5 on the C and 5 on the E, so middle finger on 5 of the C, ring on 5 of the E, strum just those 3 strings, G, C, and E. So 27 is something like this, 2 and 3 and 4 and... And now going on to 28, we're going to play 3 on the A 4 times. And I actually like to move here, play the 3 on the A string 4 times with the ring finger. Then we go to this lower B flat, the 0211, index on 1 of the E and the A barred, middle here on 2 of the C. And we're going to stretch the pinky up to 5. And that's measure 28. Sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And to finish it, a C chord. Doesn't matter what finger you play with the C chord, we're done. It's the end of the song. So here is the outro. Measures 26, 27, 28, 29. Quick note, I really like to slow down and take my time with this. Play it really slow. You'll notice in the performance video, I really took my time with it. I think it just sounds cool that way. Sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And there you have it. This might be the longest tutorial I've done here yet, but that is Ghostbusters. It's so much fun to play. I had a ton of fun working it out, and I think it's just a really fun ukulele song because it's different than the original, right? And it's really adapted to make use of the strumming type of sound, especially high G ukulele. And so my son absolutely loves it. He loves the song. He was wearing a Ghostbuster t-shirt all day while I was working on it, and I had a blast. So as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys next time on the next lesson here on Rock Class 101. Thanks so much.
Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed learning this tune. This is a perfect arrangement for working on rhythm playing, for working on strumming, and just in time for playing for Halloween as well. So guys, I do want to remind you, if you want to get the tabs to print off and keep for your records, you can do so by clicking this link right here or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for Ghostbusters. Don't forget, on that page is the really cool interactive tab player, so you can hit play, watch that tab scroll across in real time. You can highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So again, I hope you enjoyed learning this tune, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.